Laboratory. What is going on in the chat?
It's labor, like we're boring.
Wow.
Charlie. Chiefs are 14-1. They're one win from the 1 seed in the AFC. A lot of good things going for this team, but a short turnaround. We talk about the Steelers game on Wednesday. Let's ride.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
It's a live game preview / look back / it's an episode of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our incredible partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. Obviously, the Chiefs are playing on Wednesday, so we're kind of stuck in between reviewing the game that happened on Saturday. And quick turnaround and having to watch this team try to secure the 1 seed in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. I'm here with Matthew Lane. Matthew, Merry Christmas. How are we? How we doing, buddy?
Well, Merry Christmas. We're doing well. We have made it back to my house now. I am no longer fighting the sun coming off of the ocean, which is nice. Like I was during the coming back from the Jerry Dome, where I was fighting the sun during the post-game show. But no, back home, it's nice. Things are going well. Got to see some family. Got to do some Christmas stuff a little bit ahead of time. We got Christmas right around the corner, and in what is now becoming an annual tradition, that we, I guess, get to watch the Chiefs play on Christmas Day, because that is what we all strive for.
Yeah. Last year, I was driving to Ohio during the Chiefs game, and that was a very difficult experience to endure. Hopefully this one's better. I'm not gonna be in a car this time. I'm excited to watch this game. I mean, the Chiefs are, they're looking good. They're doing some good things. You're excited about the outlook. You can see the end of the tunnel. You can tell how motivated this team is to go out and get that 1 seed. A lot of good things. I can't wait for this game, even though I'm kind of I hate the fact that they're doing it to these players. I hate it. I hate this 3-game 11-day thing. The players hate this 3-game 11-day thing. Hopefully the Chiefs can get into this thing healthy, get out of this thing healthy, and be able to lock things up for the regular season. That's kind of the hope here.
Well, I mean, realistically, they're not healthy getting to this game. Chris Jones is clearly dealing with a calf strain. And calves are scary because everything's always connected, but there seems to be a pretty high correlation between calf injuries and one, not just also re-injuring the same thing, making it worse, but two, hey, guess what? The Achilles and the calf go hand in hand quite a bit. So you don't want to rush Chris Jones back, especially on short notice. So it does not appear, I mean, we don't know at this point in time if he's going to play or not. I doubt he'll play. We're going to talk more about the game preview in a second. It's just, you said that getting to this game healthy, like they're not. Like they are beat up. This team is very beat up. They've played a lot of games since their bye week has come around. They have played not only, and then now they are squishing in these 3 games into 11 days or whatever it is. So yeah, not the best time of year physically for a lot of these players, and I think this is what Kent is alluding to. You listen to Andy Reid in the locker room after the win against the Texans, winning this next game, getting the 1 seed locked up so that they then essentially get the majority of a month off without having to play a meaningful football game for the guys that are the most hurt, for the top guys. Like that is a big deal to this team. They are really going for that. And so I don't think you're going to see any, wavering in terms of effort level or anything like that this upcoming week. So that is good to see. It is unfortunate there's some injuries though.
We'll talk more about that game here in a little bit that they're looking ahead to, but we do want to look back just a little bit. Because there was there's several big storylines I think that kind of came out of that game. There were so many positive signs in that game that you felt good about walking away. But I think one of the ones that we really wanted to start with is Xavier Worthy. So you get Hollywood Brown back, you've got DeAndre Hopkins in the mix, and like you're excited about those 2 veterans, and they look good, and they're starting to pick things up and all that kind of things. But Xavier Worthy is also just turning into an X factor for this team, pun intended. You look at some of the things that they do, and early on this season, it felt like, you would see them get him involved in the, opening game script. And then maybe you wouldn't see him as involved much throughout the rest of the game. And, last night or on Saturday, You saw him involved for the duration of the game. You saw basically a Xavier Worthy drive. The last touchdown of the game for the Kansas City Chiefs was essentially the Xavier Worthy drive. He was involved everywhere in that drive. Just you're seeing his continued ascent, and it's just so exciting. It's so fun to watch as he just, he's got a great infrastructure around him. He's got a lot of talent that's going to make things a little bit easier on him, and you're seeing him start to thrive even more. And that's so exciting to see, Maddie.
It wasn't even just the last drive. I'm pretty sure on their first or their second touchdown drive, it would have been. The second touchdown drive also had a fair amount of Xavier Worthy as they were getting towards the red zone and trying to get the ball down there. And so they very clearly have. So one, Worthy's clearly gotten better as the years got on. He's developed his games. It's gone on. It's kind of followed a very, very similar path to Rashee Rice during his rookie year last season, where you see the flashes early on, but they're not all coming together. As the year goes on, progressively, they need that player more and more to step up. And maybe for Rice, and I think it's his usage, it kind of clicked a little bit faster. It was a little bit cleaner, but we're starting to see Worthy get to that point now. You're starting to see things start to fall into place. They've figured out not only how to use him, but he's figured out how he's going to win in the NFL. They're running a lot of these outbreaking routes, and whether they are just out leveraging defenders or having him run the little whip coming out of the slot or whatever it may be, they are getting ways where he is really utilizing his speed, the threat of him running a crossing route, something across the field and defenders having to keep up with them, and then allowing him to make what has been very good breaks on his routes back out towards the sideline. They're using those to great effect. And then he's still getting open on some of these crossers and some of these deep overs and downfield. Like, you're really starting to see it all come together for Xavier Worthy. I know at the beginning of this year, all media, Chiefs fans alike, were kind of giving him a little bit of a hard time. And it kind of came to its absolute peak during the Bills game where he couldn't quite find the sideline a few times and stuff like that. But I mean, this is a guy who's playing really well lately, and the Chiefs have really gone to him when the offense starts to stagnate a little bit. They are using him to create that instant offense, but it's not just jet sweeps. It's not just wide receiver screens. I mean, quite frankly, those are like sometimes some of them his most frustrating plays because any contact does seem to bring him down, but they are getting him involved. It's like a real receiver that they are not scheming open, but putting in a position that he kind of has to win, even though they are making an advantageous position, like spot for him, and he's cashing in on a lot of those.
I think what's been cool to see with him is there's been rough moments for him throughout his rookie year. And like, I think, I talked about it on the postgame show, like he's been so close so many different times throughout the season, but you've heard the kind of confidence that Patrick Mahomes has in him. You've heard the commentary that Patrick Mahomes has about him. Some of the production meetings, they'll talk about how Patrick Mahomes is speaking glowingly of Xavier Worthy. And it very easily could have been something where you saw him lose trust, Mahomes lose trust in Worthy and all that. But like, that hasn't wavered. I think about, last week, he catches that key third down, or 2 weeks ago, he catches that key third down, and that on the touchdown drive, just they trusted him. Mahomes trusted him. He came back to the football. He was seeing the field the way that, Mahomes was. And like, that was like a big step for him. I thought that was a big moment for him. And he's been getting a lot more targets ever since. The thing I really liked in this game specifically that we saw, and there's a myriad of things to think about with this. I like some of the easy completions on out routes, that you kind of saw. You saw in the easy out route in the, in the red zone that he scored his touchdown on. But it feels like that is something that they are utilizing a little bit more with Xavier Worthy. And I don't know if it's because they wanted to introduce the quick game more to protect, the offensive line. I don't know if it's the fact that Hollywood Brown is on the field as well, which also, creates the stretch, the threat of vertical stretch. So maybe there's some more soft coverages, that you're starting to see a little bit more soft coverage softening up because of the speed of it. I don't know what the whole, vision for it is, but you're seeing, some of these easy completions. You're seeing him get involved, on key stretches in third down. You're seeing, whole possessions kind of funnel through him. Like it's really cool to see. And I think he's averaged like 53 yards per game receiving over the last 6 weeks, something in that range. It's just like, it's insane what we're seeing out of this kid. And it's just so fun. It's so fun to watch because, it is a true ascension over the course of the year.
I think a lot of that's very impressive. What really sticks out to me is for a guy that is very slight, and I do think his weight and lack of play strength still shows up. Predominantly when he's got the ball in his hands, he really does struggle to break tackles. I do know on that slant, he did run through a leg tackle a little bit and pick up extra yards. But for the most part, he really does go down at first contact a lot. And you still see it sometimes too when he's running through zone coverage, he really does get disrupted. So there's a play strength issue that's still there. So for a guy that's dealing with that at the NFL as a rookie, some of his releases off the line of scrimmage have gotten pretty darn good throughout this year. He's still never going to be a guy that I don't know if you want to line up on the line of scrimmage and have him be against a good press corner and just expect him to win. But every now and then getting him out there and just seeing if he can win quickly off the line of scrimmage and then let that speed take over. I think we have seen a couple different times that's really come to fruition there. Even in this game, I found a couple clips. I think it was on the first Hopkins catch there where he gets lit up over the middle of the field. Worthy kind of beats his guy on the bottom of the screen pretty cleanly off the line of scrimmage and is open for a vertical pass if there was a chance to get the ball back over there. Later in the game, the Chiefs kind of ran this mirrored smash concept, and same thing. He beat his guy so cleanly at the line of scrimmage that if Mahomes was working that side initially, he could probably hit him in between the gap of the cover two that the Houston Texans are playing. And so his releases off the line, I think, are getting a lot better. And this goes to the point of, I get it. Worthy's really fast. He's kind of small. Some of those issues that you see with every other fast, small wide receiver do show up. But he's not a track guy playing football. He is a good football player. He runs good routes. He can get in and out of breaks. He can attack leverage. There are some warts to his game that he has to overcome because of the speed. He sometimes overstrides and runs a little too fast. Sometimes the play strength does show up, but he knows how to get up. He knows how to attack. He knows what he's doing. And I think that's stuff that kind of got lost during the first half of the season when he was struggling a little bit, picking up like the level of competition he's facing in the NFL.
It wasn't lost on you if you're reading the KCSN draft guide and all of our content there too. We were big. I mean, Xavier, I think we all kind of thought, Xavier Worthy is a lot more than just a speed guy. And some people went, hey, he's McCole, he's fast, blah, blah. No, he's not John Ross. He's not, McCole Hardman, and disrespect to McCole Hardman, because he's found a very nice role in the National Football League. But Xavier Worthy was a more complete receiver for being a fast guy. And that was always the case in college. And yes, you talk about some of the warts, he still double catches some things from time to time. He still kind of double catches some stuff. Even some of these key catches recently, he's been double catching. But you've got to be pleased with where he's headed and the trajectory he's heading. I'm pleased with the trajectory of the team in general, right? The Chiefs go and they comfortably beat a playoff team this week against the Houston Texans. A lot of people hemming and hawing 4 weeks ago. The worst 10-1 team. They've lost all these close games. Blah blah blah. They're 14-1. They've lost one game on the road against the AFC 2 seed in a game that basically came down to a 4th and 2. What? I am so just I'm done. I'm over. Any argument you have. They're 14-1. This is absurd. We're one win away from the AFC 1 seed. And, I know it's been ugly at times. I know it's not always been pretty, and they're still trying to figure some things out. But you're starting to see this team round into shape a little bit more. You're starting to see some more consistency from the offensive line, whether it's, Joe Thuney or maybe they go to DJ Humphries. But, they're going to get better offensive line play than they've had for large stretches of the season. And you're seeing the effects of Hollywood Brown on the field already, because you saw how consistent and good this offense, what can be and what it was flashing and what it was showing. And there's still more left on the table, I think, for this offense too. Matty Lane, do you think the Kansas City Chiefs are peaking at the right time?
Yes, but I think it is hard. Okay, so when we're looking at what the Chiefs are having to do the past 2 weeks, right? I think offensively, I do think they are coming into their own. They've been figuring it out since the DeAndre Hopkins trade, but there's still been some ups and downs. And I do think they've kind of figured out these past couple weeks what they have to do when the offensive line can't win. When the offensive line is going to struggle the way it has been, they have really started to go back into this quick passing game, getting the ball out super fast, going back, especially now getting Hollywood Brown back. They've gone back into a lot more of these bunch sets. They're getting a lot of these switch releases, a lot of mesh concepts over the middle of the field. They went back to the typical Andy Reid West Coast stuff where the ball comes out really fast that I don't think they could do before they had Hollywood Brown very efficiently, because every wide receiver besides Worthy, ran a 4.7. And that's really hard to get into some of those concepts in time. So I do think they have figured out a baseline of, hey, we can run the passing offense this way, and this is what it can get us. This hyper efficient, constantly getting into third and manageable, where our best player in the world is going to go and pick this stuff up. I do think they've found that out, and we hadn't known what that is. Like, the floor of this offense was still a little bit shaky up until the past few weeks. And I do think this Texans game, not that it was a bad performance in any stretch, but the way they went about their business in that game, I think sets this floor of, this is the worst this offense can be any given game, because they have these answers now available to them. And I don't think that we've known what those are this entire time.
Yeah. And I don't know. And, I sometimes I wonder if it's a little bit scheme, specific, like, the some of the off coverages that you saw in this game, just from Houston, like, are other teams going to do that? And honestly, I think they might, because I don't know how good a man coverage will be able to play against the personnel groupings that the Chiefs can roll out with Nuke and Worthy and Hollywood and Travis. Like, I think, that might create some problems. And if you do try to play man coverage, like, they utilize the back really well in this game too. They showed you some of their man beaters and some of the success they've had against man.
Well, yeah, and so let's just stick there for a second, because that's something that has been giving this Chiefs team like issues over the past few years, right?
Yes.
Like, since they got rid of Tyreek Hill, teams have generally tried to play man coverage, whether it's on third down or during entire game plans against the Chiefs, and they haven't always been the best against it, because that's not kind of the guys they have. Well, all of a sudden you look this year, and up until this past week, it's kind of the guy that they used to beat man coverage had been Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce had been okay in spurts, but like, it is Worthy, and that was kind of the only guy. And this is a rookie who's learning on the fly. Well, all of a sudden in this game, you get a very man-heavy team, and the Houston Texans, specifically a lot of cover one, and they come out in this game and they start trying to play a lot of man. Well, guess what? Once you now get Hollywood Brown back out there, and Xavier Worthy and Hopkins and all these, and these guys are all healthy, you saw it. The Chiefs just kept going into bunches. They would motion guys into bunch. They'd have both fast guys where you couldn't press them, and they're either running across the field or they're running some kind of shallow outside breaking route. And you just, if you don't get picked, if there's not some kind of rub route that creates an open player, they're just outrunning the leverage of the play based on the fact that they got in that bunch. Like, they gave a very clear and direct blueprint for how they're going to beat man coverage. And I also want to say, like, maybe you mentioned scheme. The Chiefs have kind of done a really good job against this 49ers, DeMarco Ryan style defense for years now. They've planned for it a lot of times. Maybe they just went back to some of their greatest hits, but again, it worked. This is something the Bills, the Chargers, teams have done to great success to the Chiefs this year, has played man coverage and made them win. Well, here the Chiefs just gave you, like, hey, if you're going to do that, here is our answer. Go figure out how you stop that, and then we'll approach everything from there.
I want to flip over to the other side of the ball as we're talking through this question, because I do have a question for you about this.
Yeah.
How many years have you went into the postseason in the Chiefs dynasty, going back to the first Super Bowl? How many years have you walked into the playoffs just feeling good about the Chiefs defense?
Into the playoffs?
Into the playoffs.
Definitely last year.
Yes.
For sure felt good about the defense.
Obviously, yes.
I think in 2022, I think I had seen enough from Spags to think that it was going to be good enough in 2020. And like, they had started peaking as the year went on, right? I think the back half of 2022, they got better. They learned, they got all those rookie DBs on the same page. So I think I felt like, maybe not great, but I felt good or more than okay in 2022. Before that, it was just entirely like, okay, hopefully Spags cooks something up.
Yeah.
It's like 1.5.
Nah, and see, that was kind of what I was curious about. How many years has the Chiefs defense been worse in the playoffs than they have in the regular season under Steve Spagnuolo?
Ooh, none.
0, I think.
that's a big 0. I don't got to think about that one.
Yeah, and so I think, if you're talking, like, we're having the conversation about peaking, this might be the peak for the Chiefs defense. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I tend to hope that there's a little bit more, but in peaking, well, when I say peaking, regular season peaking, I guess. I think the Chiefs defense can be better because of Steve Spagnuolo. I think the Chiefs defense can put better performance together in the playoffs because they always put performances better in the playoffs. But like, I don't know if we're gonna have a ton of big answers, to some of the big questions, right, for the next couple weeks. But I think the answer might just simply be Steve Spagnuolo and this coaching staff and this group just elevating it another level. And so it's like I've been kind of going back and forth on some of this when it just comes to like, is this team peaking at the right time? Like I think the pieces are coming together. I think the best version of the Chiefs will happen the first playoff game, whenever that is. And I think we have enough history at this point to say like, yeah, there might be some flaws. There's been a lot of flaws in a lot of Steve Spagnuolo defenses in Kansas City sans last year. But I just feel like, we've never seen this group be worse during the playoffs. And like, I think that's something I keep holding my hat on. So if the offense keeps continuing to do what they're doing here, and like, I think the defense is showing some stuff and getting better and making improvements. I think Joshua Williams, I think Najee Johnson were better than they've been this week. I'm not saying it's like acceptable level or anything like that, but they are better every single week, right? I think there was spurts with the pass rush that were better this week. And so like, I don't know. I do feel like, this team is primed to peak at the right time. And I don't know if the defense is not going to be 2023 level good, but with what the offense is showing and what the defense, has flashed, like I'm feeling pretty good about where this team is walking into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, defensively, it's just like, so the defensively is a little bit harder for me right now with what it looks at to feel like their play is necessarily peaking, because I don't know if they have, nothing has particularly changed. Offensively, you can kind of point to things that have changed, that have been altered over the past few weeks that have made them look better. Defensively, they're still kind of doing some of the same stuff. The big difference has been the past 2 weeks, they found turnovers, right? Like the same flaws still exist. It's just these last 2 weeks, they have found turnovers. And if you were going to do that, your defense obviously going to play better. The Chiefs had been relatively abnormal in how few turnovers they created, whether it's fumble luck, whether it was coming down with some of these interceptions on plays, because they have relatively decent pressure rate. They just weren't leading to poor throws that led to interception. So like maybe it is just a return or like a regression to the mean in terms of being more league average and forcing turnovers, which would be huge for this defense. You add that onto the Spag specials in the playoffs, and like, yeah, you feel pretty good. On the flip side, the pressures, while the numbers are still good, they don't always seem like they're the most impactful pressures. The coverage still has major liabilities with at least two of the corner spots on any given play. You don't know what the slot player is going to look like when it's not Trent McDuffie, although he's made a hell of a case to remain as the full-time slot corner, or at least, half-time slot player when everyone's healthy. So like, yeah, I'm not necessarily, I don't want to say I'm worried about the defense come playoff time. I do think there are certain teams that match up poorly or like match up well against this Chiefs defense. The Bills, the Bengals, if they somehow make it into the playoffs, these teams that don't run the Shanahan style stuff where everything's condensed and they're going to try to get into play action and run everything out of that, the teams that are more willing to spread it out a little bit and just make you play the way it is, I think those teams give them a little bit more trouble. So I'm not worried, but I do think the flaws are a little bit easier to attack or like more difficult for the Chiefs to maneuver around on the defensive side of the ball from what we've seen lately.
I think if the Chiefs win one more game, the good news is they would only have to play the Bengals or the Bills. So there's that.
Yeah. Or the Ravens, if they can, if like the Chiefs win this game, that helps the Ravens. Like, I mean, listen, I'm not afraid to say it. I would like the Chiefs to not have to play the Ravens or only play the Ravens or Bills on the way to the Super Bowl. I don't need to play both of them anymore. The Chiefs got their one Super Bowl where they played the hardest path possible. We don't have to do that again. Just don't need it anymore. Like, right? Give them the easiest path and let them go win that one game that matters.
That's why they got to get this one seed, man.
Yeah,
that's why they got to get this one seed too. But yeah, no,
I want it.
I think if the Bengals miraculously somehow make it, like I think the only chance, it would be the Bengals versus the Bills in Orchard Park, which would be kind of hilarious, honestly. If both those teams are having to go at it.
Well, that might be like a 70 to 71 point game.
I hope so.
Before we move on, because I think you're probably itching to get to a break and change us over to the next game. You tweeted about this. We've talked about it offline, so I think it's a good time. Joe Thuney played pretty well at left tackle. Mike Caliendo played pretty well at left guard. The two together have kind of led the Chiefs to having, I don't want to say their best, but two improved offensive line performances in what you'd seen the previous month before that. Do you think they should stick with what the offensive line unit they have locked in? Do we think we should try to, like, that they should go back to trying to shuffle? Like, what's your thoughts on the offensive line, how they've performed in this game, and what the plan would be going forward?
I think Joe Thuney's done a tremendous job in a small sample size. I think he's played well in the small sample size. I think he plays left tackle a little bit like a guard. Even watching him in his stance, it looks more like a guard stance than it is a true tackle stance. And he's doing some great work, and he's he's keeping Patrick Mahomes clean. Sometimes his length does show up and his inability to wash guys up the arc. You can see that. I think you're seeing the Chiefs doing a good job of protecting him by involving the quick game a little bit more, and the Houston Texans for presenting some more opportunities for the quick game to be a piece of the game plan. But so I think there's a functional offense that can be had, and a pretty good offense that can be had when Joe Thuney's your left tackle, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce are on the field at the same time. I think there is a capable quality offense that you can win with. I think the best version of this offense is Joe Thuney playing at guard, who is an all-pro caliber guard, and DJ Humphries playing without the rest. And if you can get DJ Humphries some time here the next couple weeks, and you can get him to knock that rust off, I feel pretty good about Humphries, Thuney as your left tackle and your left guard. And I think that's the best version of this offensive line for this team. Now, they found, I think you said it too on Twitter, they found the floor. They found the floor of capable, protection and an offense that they can function with Joe Thuney at left tackle. But my concern is if Joe Thuney has to play 5 more games, he gets found out pretty quick. Not quick, but just I think it gets more challenging for Joe Thuney to play tackle week over week because, some of the jump sets are going to be less surprising. The quick passing game gets taken away a little bit more. Now what? What are we doing now, right? So that I think is where my concern lies as far as if the sample size gets too big with Joe Thuney at left tackle and this team kind of accounting for it a little bit more. I think it could be a little bit more challenging for this team to sustain offense in the biggest games.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. You're right. I had kind of tweeted out. I said the Chiefs had found their floor on offense, with specifically the offensive line. The floor is you play Joe Thuney, you play Mike Caliendo on the left-hand side, and you run the offense through a lot of this West Coast-based stuff where all these offensive linemen besides Juwan Taylor are allowed to go get up on their defender quickly. They're just trying to get hands on him to keep the defender's hands down. The ball's coming out quick. You're not really going back to the defensive line out of hard play action. You're not really trying to push the ball downfield unless you're booting out or half booting out and then throwing it back. It's a pretty limited passing attack, though, in terms of what's on the plate, right? Not everything is on the table for that style of passing attack, and that's what we've seen with Joe Thuney at left tackle. They haven't put everything on the table. I'm not saying they can't throw deep, but look at how they throw deep. It's rollouts. It's getting the ball relatively out quick on not longer developing plays, nothing really far downfield, just barely getting into that deep threat or that deep pass attempt threshold. So I think it's kind of limiting what they can do, but again, it's a floor. You have seen this offense function very well in the passing game with this. So you can always go back to it if DJ Humphries is unhealthy, if he's playing terrible, if you have nothing else. However, I think if Humphries has a chance to go, and you do need to get him reps, I do think he kind of needs to play on Christmas Day to get some reps next to Thuney and with Mahomes. Very worse, he's got to play against the Broncos in the final game, even if not other starters there. Maybe the offensive line goes a quarter or a half so he gets reps with them. I don't know, but he needs more reps, right? And so you do need him healthy before the divisional round. You can't just throw him back out there after what we saw, which got better as that one game went on, but it was one game. So he gets reps. I think that's the plan because it just gives you the opportunity to do more. And I don't want to say he's been bad, but I do think there is a little bit of, I don't think it's a coincidence that the run game has all of a sudden seemed to kind of take a pretty big dip in its efficiency without Joe Thuney playing left guard. I think they've had to limit a little bit of their run calls. The run menu has shrunk since Caliendo's taken over. You've seen a little bit less gap stuff, and even the inside zone stuff doesn't have the same kind of range from Caliendo to Thuney. Thuney gets places that Caliendo never will. And so not that Caliendo's been bad. He has played like a quality backup utility interior offensive lineman, but there's a big gap from that to Joe Thuney, who gets to linebackers, who can make these reach blocks that he's not going to be able to this year. So yeah, I think in a perfect world, you get to go back to Thuney playing left guard. You open up the passing attack a little bit more as long as DJ Humphries can provide some level of stable play. The run game gets better again, but you at least know you have this safety net behind you the whole time.
We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this to talk Pittsburgh.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
It's a remarkably short week for yet another Chiefs game. We are turning the page on the Chiefs-Texans game and some of the things we saw there, and I'm sure it'll bleed over into some of the stuff that we're about to talk about as we get ready for Chiefs versus Steelers on Christmas Day. It's like 42 hours away as we're recording this. Like, golly, man. And like, hey, look, the Steelers had 3 less hours of rest, man. Yeah, lots of cover. Kind of just getting ready for this game. Talking about the offensive side of the ball, right? We've spent some time talking about some of these things. We don't get DJ Humphries this week in practice. Like, I believe this is the only real practice the Chiefs are having.
Yeah. So practice update. Juwan Taylor limited in practice. Chamari Connor, DJ Humphries, Chris Jones did not practice.
So, we are kind of feels like it's going to be hard to get hard time seeing that we're going to have DJ Humphries in this game. Doesn't practice and maybe we do. Maybe there's a special exception. So it might be that you don't get to see DJ Humphries back in a game until week 18 against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, not ideal. I think it would obviously be better if DJ Humphries got to go out there and play with the starting offensive line while Patrick Mahomes was your quarterback. I do think that you can get enough out of it if you can just get the starting offensive line to play in week 18. If you go out there and offensive line, I'm sure all those guys want a little bit of a break too. I'm sure they don't want to play the entire game, but if they have to go out there and treat it like a preseason game where they get a few reps in so DJ Humphries can play next to Joe Thuney for a little bit, feel what that's like a few more times than he's gotten to so far this year, then you replace the other 4 starters with your backups and then move on the rest of the game where DJ Humphries probably should play the whole thing. That's fine. If he can't go at all this regular season, though, I don't know if you can throw him back out there in the divisional round. These injuries, not the biggest thing. We'll see what happens with Juwan Taylor. It's not the largest injury list you're going to see from an NFL team this time of year, but you definitely some important pieces to this Chiefs team have, suffered injuries over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's a big storyline for me, like just with this game, because like that Texans win's huge and you need one more win in the next 2 weeks to get the 1 seed. And I am of the belief that I think this team might be treating this game against the Steelers like a playoff game a little bit, right? Like, I think this is let's go out. Let's put this thing, let's leave it all out there for this Thursday game. Let's go take care of business. Let's kind of treat it as our tune-up because we are going to get 3.5 weeks off. So this is our last chance to kind of leave it all out there. Let's just go and put our most complete performance together in this game. And let's just, kind of treat it like a playoff game, like win or go home kind of game, just so that if you lose, you've got a week and a half off to go get right and get ready for this game. But if you win and you take care of business, man, you are sitting pretty, and you're going to have all this time to kind of peak at the right time during January. Now, the problem though is now we're looking at Chris Jones and what you hope is your left tackle now likely out for this game. Your starting nickel likely out for this game. Now, hey, look, they had some good help. I know. Juwan Taylor, you're starting right tackle, limited participant. Weird spot to be in for this team because they are simultaneously like, hey, like we're trying to, I think they're really pushing hard. Like we know they're pushing hard. I think they're going to treat this like a playoff game, but they're going to be treating it like a playoff game without several key players on this team. And like, it's a lot to be losing, for this Thursday football game.
It is. And we'll have to see who all plays, who doesn't play, but they're definitely losing a fair amount of guys for this game coming on Netflix. So I'm sure Netflix is very happy that at least Patrick Mahomes is appearing like he's going to play. I bet they are thinking they're stars for that one. So yeah, we'll listen to see who goes out there. If Juwan Taylor, since we're second on the offense right now, assuming DJ Humphries doesn't play, we know what the left side is going to look like. It's going to be Thuney. It's going to be Mike Caliendo next to it. Tough matchup against a good Steelers defensive line, but also so was the Texans. That was a good defensive line they just played. They also had a big test against some of the players along the Browns defensive line. So I don't know if that's going to be abnormally different for them. Flip side, Wanya Moore stepped in for Juwan Taylor this past week when Taylor had to leave the game. I'm not saying Morris was great, but he moved more confidently and looked more comfortable moving on the right side than he does the left. There's a rhythm to his kick slide. There's a rhythm to everything that he does that doesn't exist on the left side. And I don't think a single time he took his outside hand and tried to punch right in between the numbers of the defensive end across from him like he did when he was on the left. So that was promising if Wanya Morris does have to play on the right side. It did look a pure eye test, but it looked a little bit better in this one small set of sample size. So I think the offensive line, regardless of who plays, will be able to go ahead and be okay, especially if TJ Watt is not 100%. And not that they, Cam Hayward's having a fantastic year this season. Alex Highsmith, good player. Like the Steelers still are very dangerous in the defensive line. It's just if Watt's not 100% like always, I think this offensive line and what Andy Reid has been doing scheme-wise lately will be able to survive through it no matter what.
It's funny, the Wanya Morris arc where like he's been the left tackle for so long this season, but it's true. Like, you flip him over to the right side, a position that he played a lot of football at Oklahoma over on the right side and performed well. It's funny. You feel good about, you feel fine with him at right tackle. You feel like you feel fine. Like, it's funny to say, hey, this team's they're losing if they lose Jawan Taylor and, DJ Humphries, they really haven't been, with, but it's just kind of funny to think like, okay, they're down 2 starters or 1.5 starters, whatever you want to call it. And like, you feel fine because like Wanya's kicking over to right and Joe Thuney's playing left tackle. Do you think if JJ Watt lined up over Joe Thuney, like how do you think that matchup would go for Joe Thuney?
TJ Watt?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, and this is my memory bank that I'm pulling from, but I feel like I have like less than like 10 reps of TJ Watt rushing from that side. So I don't even know if he can turn that way. I legitimately like he doesn't really move. It wouldn't be a great matchup for him, but like, here's the thing. For what the Chiefs, so this goes back to, I think it all goes back to the Chiefs offensive philosophy that we already talked about. The Steelers also play a lot of man coverage, also play a lot of cover one, just like the Houston Texans did. I really think the Chiefs can kind of bring over the exact same game plan that they just used against the Texans to a lot of what they're going to do against the Steelers. It's going to be a lot of man coverage. They're going to get a lot of bunches. The ball's going to come out quick. So do I think Joe Thuney can quick set and angle set himself into buying enough time that TJ Watt doesn't destroy the game? Absolutely. We've seen him do it against Myles Garrett. We've seen him do it this last week against, a combination of everybody the Texans are throwing at him with Danielle Hunter and Will. So like, I don't know. I feel fine about it. I think it would be okay. Like, I don't think it would completely derail the game. I feel like it'd be a little bit riskier if it was DJ Humphries and then you tried to run a more full on not normal, but a wider array of passing attack and don't lean entirely on the quick game and try to give the full pass menu to Mahomes and this offense. Then it would be a little bit more of a dangerous proposition because you would hold the ball a little bit longer. But if it's Thuney, they'll continue to protect him with that same quick passing stuff.
So, all right. So, how do you feel about TJ Watt versus Wanya Morris if it's Wanya Morris?
I mean, it's a little bit riskier because I don't think that you have the same floor for Morris. Like, Joe Thuney's clearly a very smart player that knows how to block somebody. And when he can frame them up by getting out in front of them quickly when he's playing tackle, he is going to do well. He's going to at least compete. Morris has a tendency to sometimes just miss when that's the case. So I think I feel a little bit better about Thuney versus Watt in that scenario than I would Morris versus Watt in that scenario. But same concept though. If the Chiefs know they have their backup tackles in, I do think they are going to try to protect them a little bit. And now that we have seen where this quick passing game can go, plus the man coverage beating on the back end, because the Steelers are just going to try to disrupt everybody's timing. When you can't do that and the Chiefs get guys open quickly, it doesn't matter quite as much.
I'm going to be fascinated to see the situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the cornerback spot because I don't believe Joey Porter Jr. is going to play. It looks like he's did not participate 2 straight days. It doesn't seem like he's trending in the direction that he is going to be able to play in this game. So, like, I know he's not been particularly good, and I think the Steelers cornerback situation in general has not been particularly great. Dante Jackson, Joey Porter, Corey Trice, and James Pierre. You got B. Bishop playing in the slot. But I don't know. I don't know. How do you think? Like, do you think the Chiefs go? Like, do you think the Chiefs try to get the quick game going a little bit more again? If it's Joe Thuney, like, what do you think the Chiefs try to do? You think they go back to the quick game?
For sure. I think it's a lot of like the past 2 weeks, but especially against the Texans. It's a similar style of defense that the Steelers and the Texans play. It looks a little bit different, but like it's a similar concept. They want to be man, they want to be physical, they want to keep one safety deep. The other safety wants to, Minka wants to be able to range around a little bit, roll down into the box, go help where he thinks it's needed. And when you do that, you're relying on the pass rush to get home kind of quickly. And what the Chiefs are going to do is if that's the case, they're going to throw a lot of quick games. It's going to be a lot of bunch sets like they did this past. Hollywood Brown came back. We all loved it. If you go watch all of Hollywood Brown's targets, they are all either him working out of a bunch or all him motioning into a bunch. And he's not really beating any specific defender. He's just attacking leverage. That's fine for the first game back. I don't have a complaint about it, but you watch how they use them, and it's very clear how the Chiefs wanted to attack that style of defense. You're going to get the same thing from the Steelers, and they might be without their best, man coverage guy in Joey Porter Jr. So I think you would just see a lot of the same stuff, a lot of crossers, a lot of outbreaking routes, attacking leverage from these bunch sets that are just saying, hey, we got two guys that are faster than your defenders. You're going to get a lot of switch releases. You're going to have to be on point with your communication. You're going to have to adjust quickly, and the ball's going to come out before your pass rush gets home. I think that's the way it's all going to go. And that's good that the Chiefs have that answer. What gets tricky is if the Steelers do throw that curveball, play a little bit more zone, and these guys, Hollywood Brown, second game with Patrick Mahomes, a rookie Xavier Worthy, find the right soft spots, be on the same page, because we have still seen miscommunication issues between all of these guys and Mahomes. That's where it gets dicey. I just don't know if the Steelers really have that in their bag because they are such a man-heavy team.
I'm fascinated to see how that goes. And I worry a little bit about the sample size of this offense that looks good and looks capable the longer it goes on. And I was really hoping we'd get to see DJ Humphries in this game. It really doesn't feel like we're going to get to see him back. So I'm just, I think that's one of the challenges. How effective do you think the Chiefs have to be running the football to win this football game?
Well, they don't have to be effective, as we have seen recently, right? They don't have to be effective. And this is where one of my, not confusion, but this is where one of the hesitations I think start to creep up a little bit with this Chiefs offense. Why has the run game's efficiency regressed so much these past few weeks? And I do think part of it is Joe Thuney moving out of left guard. I think part of it is Mahomes' lack of mobility these past couple weeks, especially, and not being able to get into the full array of run games have probably played a part. And so, I don't know. I don't know how effective they are going to be. I have to say this. I've seen enough. Kareem Hunt should be the starting. Kareem Hunt should be the running back one. Kareem Hunt is the guy that does for this running game what they need. We spent all the beginning of the year saying, Pacheco coming back and providing the occasional explosive play is going to be more beneficial than this, or is what they're really missing. It's just not turning out to be true because he's not hitting explosives at a high enough clip to make up for the times where he doesn't pick up 1 yard when it's available because he doesn't see the right spot, or when he only gets 3 when a Kareem Hunt might get a 5 or a 6. It feels like we've gotten to the point where it's pretty clear that Kareem Hunt's more consistent and is the guy that's going to get you the 1s and the 2s that you need. Whereas Pacheco, he might hit a bigger play every now and then, but it's just such a wild ride to get there that he's got to be kind of their backup or their spell guy.
All right. Let's do a quick player to watch on the offensive side of the ball. This is brought to you by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN gets you the best available discount on your Chiefs tickets. So promo code KCSN, best available discount at ticketsforless.com. Player to watch, offense, go. Matthew Lane.
We've talked about him a fair amount of in this, but I'm going back to Xavier Worthy right now. I think he is really coming along right now. I think he's doing a lot of good stuff, and I think we are going to see again a very man heavy coverage attack with a lot of single high safety, which means there will be chances for him to get over the top. I think this might be another week where we see them try a deep shot to him, and hopefully it connects this week. But if not, I do think you will see him continue to be a focal point of this offense. And that's just really nice to see based on how it went for the first half of the year.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce for this one. I think this is, I think this is a game. I'll probably say this at least one more time, I think, before the show is over. I think the Chiefs are going to treat this like a playoff game. I think you're going to see them really notch it up just a little bit so they can take care of business and secure this 1 seed and then get a long break before the playoffs start. So I think it just feels like that's the vibe of this team right now. It's let's go get one more. You heard Steve Spagnuolo breaking things down. it was the most awkward breakdown ever. It's like, go win one more on 3. 1, 2, 3. Go win one more. It's just something like that. It's some long-winded thing, but they're all focused on getting one more win. And I think this is like the beginning of Travis Kelce turning it up a notch a little bit too, like we saw in the playoffs last year, where he got hot late and looked really good and did some really good things and was crucial in the Chiefs' success in the playoffs. And I think you're going to see, this team really crank some things up in this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers so that they can kind of get out of Dodge, take care of business, and do what they need to do to get right for the playoffs. So I'm picking a big Travis Kelce game. I think he's going to have a big performance. I think you're going to see, a version of him that we maybe haven't even seen entirely this entire season, because I think they all understand the gravity of the situation, trying to get that 1 seed and get that big win so they can have so much time. All right, let's talk about the defensive side of the football. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't had their best offensive weapon over the last few weeks in George Pickens. The offense has looked noticeably worse in the absence of George Pickens. It is expected that that he will be playing in this game. So George Pickens expected to be playing in this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Recent reports today. I feel like he's looking at their their playmakers on offense. He's really the only I would consider game wrecker on that offense in that passing game, just period for this football team. I feel like he's the only game wrecker that they really have on defense or on offense, Maddie.
Yeah, I think overall their offense has been better than I think a lot of people expected, especially when you look at how poorly they've run the ball this year. So the fact that Russell Wilson has come in for Justin Fields and they have been a very normal function, not normal in terms of scheme, but like just a normally functioning offense. Like they do not go out there and embarrass themselves week after week on offensive side of the ball.
Yep.
That's impressive. I didn't expect that. And then when you talk about it, they have kind of one guy that you call reliable on the offensive side. George Pickens is the opposite of reliable, but he is still the only guy that you can even partially put that moniker to. And so to see them come out and still be semi-competitive offensively without him these past couple of weeks has been, again, something. And it appears that Pickens is on his way to playing in this game. He is the worst. Him and Russell Wilson paired together is the worst kind of matchup for the Chiefs secondary, and that goes anybody from Joshua Williams, Najee Johnson, all the way down to Trent McDuffie. It's just a guy and a quarterback, a receiver and a quarterback that are willing to throw moon ball 50-50 balls downfield and just say, hey, our guy can win them whenever, however, it's going to happen. Yeah, they probably are going to hit a couple of those against the Chiefs. It's just going to happen because that is what those two guys have done against a lot of teams, and that hasn't been the Chiefs' cornerbacks like specialty so far this year. So unfortunately, he's coming back for this game. I would expect the Steelers to try to really live in that. They do throw the ball downfield a ton. When they have him, especially, they do it a ton. It can't be something that I think the Chiefs defense gets in their own head about or really loses like their mojo that they have gathered if that happens, because the Steelers are good at working that up.
Oh yeah, and like I feel like that will be a point of emphasis in this game. This game for this team, like as they're getting their work in for the week, is how do we challenge the ball in the air down the field without drawing penalties, because that's as damaging as letting the catch happen. Is like you've got to be really intentional about not interfering. Like you've got to be very intentional with that. So like I think the challenge for the Chiefs is not just to play the ball well, but which they don't do a great job of, but it's also to not draw a penalty, right? Like that's equally like, because like this team, I feel like they get lost a little bit time when the ball is in the air down the field, and they've really got to be intentional about protecting against that. And like you're right, like where some quarterbacks might not try to challenge down the field and they might just take what the shell is going to give them. Like Russell will still go out and he will still go out and challenge down the field, especially if he breaks the pocket. His first thought is, I'm going to try to chuck this thing down the field and see what happens. Like that is his default. So if he breaks contain, if he breaks the pocket and he's rolling, he wants to get out there and throw that ball up. And so the Chiefs they've got to be very intentional about not just, playing the football, but avoiding, a crucial, penalty. Luckily for the Chiefs, though, they pay the refs, and the refs are on their side. The NFL somehow wants to eliminate parity by having a team three-peat, which is why the refs are in the pockets of the Kansas City Chiefs.
True. So you're telling me no defensive pass interferences. Nice.
Yeah.
No, Russell Wilson does that. I mean, when he's under pressure, his average depth of target actually goes up from where it is when he's not under pressure. And this isn't just blitz. Like, against blitzing, some teams against when they get blitzed, that's very normal. This is just raw under pressure. Even when he gets pressured, Russell Wilson is like, oh, I'm putting this ball downfield because he doesn't like to throw through traffic. He doesn't like throwing over the middle of the field. He doesn't even necessarily like throwing like the ball short to intermediate, like outside the numbers, unless he can really plant his feet, step into it, and like really layer it or get everything into it. It's just not his game. And so when you do get pressure on him, he is going to try to push the ball downfield. And it becomes like two things become very important. One, you got to finish these plays where you get pressure. The Chiefs, very good this year at getting pressure. Not great at bringing opposing quarterbacks down. This is one of those games where I don't know if it's going to be that beneficial to come out of it and say, we had a 45% pressure rate. That's, X best this year, the third best rate all year for this team. But like, it might not matter in this game with the way Russell Wilson likes to play football, with what some of these receivers for the Steelers can do. So I do think it's worth knowing that like this pass rush, when they get pressured, they do have to actually fully come through and execute. The defensive backs, especially the safeties, have to be aware that when he does break contain, or if it does look like he's under pressure, Wilson is definitely looking to push the ball downfield, and you can't start coming down towards the line of scrimmage to take away a check down or to take away a potential scramble. So like, I think there's definitely things for the Chiefs defense to key in on, even when things seem to be breaking their way. And then this goes all the way up to Spags, so the defensive coordinators. Like, the Steelers the years past, you want to take away the run and then make them throw the ball to beat you. This Steelers team doesn't run the ball particularly well. Like, Arthur Smith's tried a lot of different stuff. They don't run the ball well. I don't know if the Chiefs need to sell out to stop the run. This run defense has been excellent all season long. You might be able to live and die just by what you can do with your typical normal box count against this team. Now, the Steelers go heavy quite a bit. They go 13 personnel, the highest rate in the league. They go 12 personnel, still like at a near top 10 rate in the league. Like, they go heavy plenty. So you're going to get a lot of base defense out there. I just mean that like, you probably don't want to roll down an extra safety. You don't want to spend all this time allowing a ton of one-on-ones in these vertical passes, because that is what this offense is really trying to get. They want you to come try to stop the run by loading the box or sending extra guys to the table.
Anything else on defense?
No, I mean, I think that was the big stuff. Is, again, I think it's just got to worry about don't get sucked into defending the run. Like, again, it's the Steelers. You have them in your mind. This is what a Mike Tomlin Steelers team is. That's not what this team is. Don't get sucked into playing the run. Without Chris Jones, it's going to be important that George Karlaftis and Charles Omeni, who continue to have good games in these impactful plays. Tershawn Wharton, maybe he gets a little bit more freedom now. Like, maybe he doesn't have to play off Chris Jones as much, and maybe we see him return to what he did earlier in the year, where it seemed like he was kind of taking over some games as well.
That might be a good time for players to watch. Presented by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN. Best discount available on your Chiefs tickets, ticketsforless.com. So who is your player to watch, Matthew?
Well, we mentioned it, like, right, the Steelers like to go with a lot of heavy personnel. Anytime the Chiefs go up against a team that you're getting a lot of heavy personnel, give me Leo Chenal as my player to watch every single time. I didn't think he looked good this last game. And I know he was dealing with being sick and stuff like that. He didn't look like the same Chenal that was attacking everything, right? He wasn't playing with that same level of like reckless abandon, not even reckless abandon, but like that mentality. So the fact that hopefully he feels better this week, you go into it expecting him to be on the field a lot, because they're going to put Darnell Washington out there. They're going to put Cam Hayward. They're going to put Hayward's brother. Is it Connor Hayward? I'm blanking on his first name now. They're going to put the Hayward fullback brother out there. Yeah. They're going to put a lot of big bodies out there. You're going to get a lot of Leo Chenal. It'll be huge for him to not only play a role in the run game, but not let some of those guys leak out and be wide open from this goofy Arthur Smith offense that's done okay at that this year. Yeah,
I mean, Leo Chenal's snap count's been very low last few weeks, and I think like teams are staying out of some of these heavier personnel, and sometimes I think it's to keep him off the field. Like, I think that's a conscious decision. Sometimes they want to keep Leo Chenal off the field. I'll be writing about that and a lot of other things on the KCSN Substack on Wednesday. I gave a gift to every single position group for Christmas. That releases on Christmas Day at 6 a.m. So you could read that before the Steelers game. I think it's the entire secondary trying to slow down George Pickens and how they play the ball in the air. So like, I think that's one of the key players to watch, is like the entire secondary. I'm doing it. Screw it. Just like, I think if you can keep the explosive plays to a minimum, I think that goes a long way in this team being able to get out of Pittsburgh with a win. I think George Pickens is the fastest path to explosive plays, and that's including those long penalties that can happen on PI, because he is a matchup nightmare for this team. 100%. you're right. There's not a great matchup for him for this team. So you got to sit in 2 eye. You got to keep a lid on things and invite the run and invite the shorter passing game, because you don't want him to wreck the game. That was partially, like, I think Leo Chanel, like, you can play with more even boxes if Leo Chanel's at his best, right? You don't have to roll a safety down because you've got Leo Chanel involved. He's that big of a game wrecker in the run game. Like, he's a niche player, but like, he might be the best at his niche in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Like he really might be. Like, very niche linebacker. And but for what he is, he might be the best at it. So, but
it's been a while since we've got to see. I mean, it's been a while since we got to see him really like flex that too, right? Like, early in the year, that was happening frequently. Now it's been a minute, and so, like, I just think this is like the perfect game going into the playoffs to be like, hey, this is still here when you try to put the Chiefs in this situation. Like, when you try to make the Chiefs play this particular way, he might be niche, but he's ready to go right now for this. This is what he's made for, and he can wreck a game from here. You have seen it numerous times this year.
Well, they weaponized him earlier and they haven't as much, and maybe that's something that they're holding back a little bit for January. And this could be the last time we see some of these starters in January if they take care of business. It's time for game predictions. What you got, Maddie?
Oh, my turn first. Okay. I think that the Chiefs come out with some energy in this game. I think they are very much playing not just for like a playoff, win and win kind of thing. They are playing for rest. They are playing to get some guys some rest. Things have been clicking. I think they are probably kind of actually annoyed at the way they've played. And sometimes that energy can carry into a negative impact, and other times it can be positive. It seems like, from what we've seen the past few weeks against, how they have played against the Texans, even most recently, they are using the frustration of having to play 3 games in 11 days with such an early bye to their benefit. And it's kind of got them amped up. They know if they come out of this game, they have 25 days or 24, 25 days of not having to play a meaningful football game, and guys get to really rest up. So I think they come out kind of hot. I think we've seen it. This offense has figured out what I think the Steelers type of defense is. I don't think there's going to be a ton of curveballs there. They have figured out how they want to attack that. And as long as they don't make the silly mistakes and, have silly turnovers, or that's fumbles, or Mahomes making a bad pass right to Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think the offense kind of controls the Steelers defense. It looks somewhat easy like it did against the Texans, where they can move the ball up and down the field, and it's just a matter of cashing in the red zone. Defensively, I expect it to be a little up and down for the Chiefs, just because, like I said, the Steelers do a lot of the things that make the Chiefs struggle throwing these YOLO balls, but I don't think the Steelers offense is that good. I don't. I think it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I think the Steelers are a good coach team by Mike Tomlin, and Arthur Smith's been great this year, but they just don't have the firepower to hang. Give me the Chiefs 27 to the Steelers 17. 2-score win. I know, unheard of.
I think this team sees light at the end of the tunnel. I think they are so focused on winning this football game so that they can get a long extended period of time off in preparation for the real season. I think you started to see them crank things up against the Houston Texans last week. I think that was the beginning of them kind of building up towards January. I think they see this as an opportunity, a massive, massive opportunity. And I think they're going to treat it like a playoff game. Not that they're going to unload the clip and all that stuff, but I just think you're going to see a level of intensity focus to this team, and they're going to take care of business and put a really good performance on both sides of the football together. You're going to walk away from this game feeling good about the Kansas City Chiefs and their outlook in the playoffs. You are going to be excited about the long extended break you're going to be able to see from key players. Chris Jones or not, I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have a good game plan together. I think this team is going to play well, and I think they're going to win this football game. And I'm going to mirror Maddie's score because that's what I had in my head. 27-17. Chiefs win the football game. Chiefs get the 1 seed. And we don't see Patrick Mahomes for 3.5 weeks, or Chris Jones, or Travis Kelce, or some other key players. We'll see DJ Humphries, though, which is going to be fun. Week 18. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. We will talk to you after the game on Christmas Day to break all things down, and hopefully we're celebrating this team advancing as the 1 seed in the AFC. That is the ultimate prize. That's why this team does what they do in the regular season, and hopefully we get that taken care of. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We will talk to you after Christmas. We hope you have a Merry Christmas. We love you. We appreciate you so much. We'll catch you later.
Same score as me.